Hi folks, this is CNB. I'm Siddharth Vinayak Partnkar, and we have a bit of a classic car hangover that's happening on the show, I'm afraid, because right after we brought you the Pebble Beach Concours Elegance, we are now in the Windsor Castle in the UK, of course, and this is the first ever Windsor Concours of Elegance as well, and we're going to take you through some of the nice little gems that are here too. But of course, there's going to be plenty more because our market continues to buzz, and so there's plenty that's coming our way. Perhaps not immediately, because the first car I want to talk about is a major global debut. It's also something that I managed to catch while I was here in the UK. That's of course the all-new generation of the Range Rover.
A very good evening to you. And on behalf of the CEO of Jaguar Land Rover, Dr. Ralph Spate, and the Board of Directors, it is my pleasure to welcome you here to Richmond Park and to the Royal Ballet School.
The new fourth generation Range Rover was revealed to a star-studded audience in London's Richmond Park. This included Olympians and actors, journalists and models, and many more.
I'm always excited about cars. I'm a terrible petrol head, so anything new to me is fabulous. I drive some boring cars and some exciting ones.
This is probably the most significant Range Rover since 1971, in the sense that it's a real step change. So this is a kind of, you know, an icon in the making, and we'll all look back on this and say, oh, I was there when they launched that one, and it was a really, you know, show-busy evening.
It is definitely too early to call it a triumph, but it is certainly the most important milestone for Land Rover in several years. The car will be available to customers in the UK and USA by December. The rest of the world gets it in the first quarter of 2013. The new Range Rover has grown in size and possibly stature too. It attempts to offer new levels of luxury while also trying to stay green. The big significant difference between the fourth and the third generation of the Range Rover is the fact that they've tried to very consciously make this vehicle a whole lot lighter, and so of course it is an all aluminum monocoque. The first time that you're seeing something like that being done by this brand. You're also seeing the overall dimensions increasing. There is a much longer wheelbase. It means that of course you're going to get more in terms of interior space, and yet at the same time they try to make it more streamlined, more aerodynamic, which means that the overall roof height, the roof angle as well, has been completely altered. In terms of engines, they've tried to again downsize. You're getting a 3-litre diesel. You're also getting an announcement from Range Rover that there will be a 3-litre diesel hybrid as well, and I think that's pretty significant for a brand like this, which you think would be very traditional, which would try and perhaps stay a little bit more conservative, at the same time responding to global demand. And if you look at an SUV segment really, in terms of trying to achieve higher efficiency, going with a diesel hybrid is perhaps a little bit more intelligent. It is the world's first diesel hybrid SUV, and the fact that it is all aluminum also is very, very significant. It means not just that the materials are different or the manufacturing process is different, it also means that they've actually sort of tried to reinvent the wheel in some senses, and so that's going to be the interesting, crucial bit, because, well, they say that it feels very different to drive as well. I can't wait. And remember, it's a diesel hybrid, which attempts to cash in on diesel's higher efficiency over petrol overall to begin with, and then enhancing that by throwing in a 50 kilowatt electric motor. Land Rover claims that the addition of the hybrid system, heavy battery notwithstanding, doesn't change the go anywhere credentials that are the hallmark of the Range Rover brand. The hybrid variant will be offered only in select markets though, and that too later in 2013. And of course, besides that, the company is offering one supercharged petrol V8 and two turbo diesel options. One is the new V6, and then there is the diesel V8. So as I mentioned, it is the very first time that a Range Rover will use an all-aluminium frame. This reduces weight by 180 kgs. And this despite the slight increase in dimensions. It is 27 millimeters longer than its predecessor and yet stays overall shorter than its rivals like the Audi Q7 or the Mercedes-Benz GL. The car's overall looks though are contemporary and yet unmistakably Range Rover. The clamshell bonnet on the all-new Range Rover is of course very typical, very traditional, and in terms of the overall face of the car, it instantly tells you that this is a Land Rover. The classic grille up front, of course the Range Rover badging up front here as well. But if you look at it, there are a few very specific contemporary elements that have been thrown in. Of course, heavy use of LED in the headlamp cluster, and overall a whole lot more stylish. Remember that the designers here had to keep a balance between being a typical Range Rover and also trying to appeal to some of the newer markets that this product's going to go into, and so a little bit Evoque-like as well in front. If you see, it's looking a lot younger, it's looking a lot more flamboyant, and yet instantly it is definitely a Range Rover. Of course, they've done a whole lot more in terms of customization as well, because you get a whole lot of options on the Autobiography top-end variant, which means that not just in terms of body color or interior trim, you can do a whole lot more. There's a panoramic sunroof that's been thrown in as optional as well, and so it's going to excite different markets, it's going to excite different kind of customers, and at least that's what the management will be hoping when it comes to just the way people respond to the way this car now looks.
The vehicle is based here at Land Rover. In Land Rover Design, we have a design strategy, which was the design strategy that helped us create the award-winning Evoque. That design strategy is based on four elements: fresh approach to functionality, sustainability, luxury, and of course desirability. Great design is a gateway to customer desirability. It's about making that emotional connection, and this vehicle really does talk to those four key elements in every way.
Now, one thing that's crucial to the DNA of this brand is to ensure that the driver of this vehicle always maintains what they call the command position. So you get a commanding view of the road, and that's what customers would expect as well. First impression, it does seem to have that sort of a feel, but of course it's too early for me to tell you if that's true. However, I will also tell you that they've thrown in a few extra little goodies which people are going to like. The start-stop button. There's also, of course, start-stop in traffic too that's been thrown in on some of the variants, and soft touch doors. The terrain response system, that's something I want to quickly mention as well. It has all its features that you would expect, but it also has an auto function now, which means that the car will pretty much adapt in a few hundredths of a second to the kind of terrain that you're driving on. So that's pretty impressive, and some buyers might find that a little bit easier too. The company has spent £1 billion on the entire project. This is because the new Range Rover's new architecture demanded technology enhancements for the manufacturing processes too. So the Solihull facility that makes this car has also been upgraded to meet the new production requirements at an expense of £370 million. The company hopes to make good on the high investment by using some of these facilities and processes as also the new vehicle's new platform for future products. Most Range Rover variants will likely breach £100,000 here in the UK, but interestingly its entry variant starts at £72,000, and that is the same price as the entry variant on the outgoing third generation Range Rover. Well, you can understand why there is so much excitement here. It's not just any other car that's launching, it is a British motors icon, and the interesting part of the story here is that when you look at this brand new Range Rover, the fourth generation, what you're also looking at is the first car that's being developed for JLR completely after the takeover from Tata Motors. And so that is where I think a lot of people have been looking to this car to say that, look, is it uniquely British? Is it living up to all that's expected from this brand? And that's what the world's going to be watching out for in terms of anticipation, in terms of just the kind of response that we are seeing here tonight. It seems that the initial reactions, at least, are indeed very strong. Now, before we wrap this up, I have to show you the star attraction at the new Range Rover's coming out party. Yes, indeed, it was Mark Knopfler and his band who treated us to some evergreen hits like Money for Nothing. Oh yeah, baby. (1953) Berlinetta from Maserati. The only time I've ever seen this car has been in pictures, so it's nice to actually see one in the flesh. Now, we'll continue to take you through the concourse here, and there's a lot more that I want to show you for sure, but we will slip into a short break at this point, so join us on the other side of this short commercial break. Thank you for staying with us, folks. This is CNB, and this week we are coming to you from the UK, as I mentioned, and we are, of course, at the Windsor Castle for the concours here. Now, lots of cars, as always, lots to take in, but I've been teasing you with little bits and pieces of it. So now let's get into some details. Of course, lots of British cars here as well, so lots to show you. It's the very first Windsor Concours of Elegance, and if Pebble Beach has the Pacific Ocean, well, the Windsor Castle is no less stunning a backdrop, eh? The Queen's weekend home is as grand as it gets, and the central quadrangle in the castle's upper ward is the perfect setting indeed. 60 masterpieces, with half having come in from outside the UK, but some British gems too, no doubt. Let me kick off with this car, a 1954 Austin Healey 100S. The sports car was built by Austin in collaboration with Donald Healey and could reach speeds of 100 miles per hour. The reason I'm excited about it is because you saw its owner in our first segment, Mark Knopfler. Okay, but how about we get as British as we possibly can? Now we're inside the Windsor Castle, so of course you've got to also take a look at a few royal gems. So we're lucky enough that some of these beautiful exhibits are here, which are of course from the royal family. The Ascot Landau is something that the family still uses to get to the Royal Ascot, but you of course have to have Rolls-Royce. That brand definitely goes with the royal family. But here's a little bit of a special car that I want to talk about. Now, it is of course a gorgeous Aston Martin, but the reason it got a little bit more sort of notoriety of late, got a little famous, is because you know, you had it actually be a part of the royal wedding, and recently you had the royal wedding, remember, and so at the end of the ceremony, the newlyweds, William and Kate, actually drove out in this car, and of course it belongs to Prince Charles. It was a gift to him on his 30th birthday from the Queen, and you of course know it belongs to the Prince of Wales because it also has this very special dragon right here up on the hood. Now, the other interesting bit of trivia around this car is the fact that it actually runs on biofuel. Now, if the Queen has her collection of Rolls Royces, check out this 1925 Phantom 1 Jonquière Coupe. It's almost a little hard to believe that this car dates back to 1925. Well, it kind of looks like it's out of a Hollywood Batman production in some senses, but it is of course a Phantom, like I said, from 1925, but it's not exactly how all of these cars used to look back then, because the owner decided that he wanted something a little bit extra, and so of course he sent it to a coach builder in Belgium. So what you see is a very sort of flamboyant, very distinct looking car as a result of that, and so a lot of metal along the side. It almost looks like it's sort of flush with the ground. You can barely tell that it's on wheels. It seems to almost glide when it moves, and at the back, that massive fin, I mean, just look at it, it absolutely takes your breath away.
The intention behind this car was to have something completely different, to build a Concours winning show car. When Concours were true Concours, people dressed up and presented the cars in matching outfits and things like that. It was meant to make a statement. It wasn't intended for ergonomics. It wasn't meant to be easy to get in and out of. It wasn't meant to be easy to drive. It was just meant to make a statement.
Now, there is a Lamborghini Miura back there. There is a 250 GTO here from Ferrari. I'm not going to get obsessed with the Ferraris like I usually do at such events. Yes, I know there's one back there as well, but let me show you this car instead. Now, the reason I want to show you this is because we're talking about a certain era here, and what you're seeing is a very unusual looking car in terms of design. And that's always nice, isn't it, to have the engines coming on some of these cars? Well, all right, so while that Bentley comes to life back there, let me continue to tell you a little bit more about this. I've got to get the pronunciation right. It's an Avion Voisin, and of course 1935. The point I was making about the styling, it's an era where you saw lots of flamboyant curves. Everything was flared and really rounded, and yet on this car you see a lot of straight lines. You see a lot of edges. A little bit unusual for its time, and the other reason I wanted to show you this car is because a car just like this was actually the winner at the Pebble Beach Concours in 2011. The Avion Voisin C25 Berlin Aerodyne is indeed a very rare car, and I was very happy to see it here at Windsor. And then finally there was the car I couldn't get my eyes off. Now, if I could go back in time, and if I had a lot of money in that particular time, then you know what, I'd like to actually perhaps buy one of these cars. In fact, that's the kind of thought you get pretty much when you visit these events, because you'd really wish you could own one of these, right? Well, at this particular event, it has to be this car. I mean, the SS100 from Jaguar, it's a gorgeous car. It represents everything cars of that era were supposed to be. It's flamboyant, it's very, very pretty, it's very well designed, and of course, it also drove really well. So, yeah, for me, I think it would be a car like this. It's just a pity, unfortunately, that I can't actually own it. One of the most elegant Jaguars of the pre-war era. Very few of the SS100s were made, and by the way, very few could actually breach the 100 miles per hour barrier. But they remain very desirable amongst car collectors, fetching as much as £300,000 today. If you've enjoyed this glimpse into these glorious British car brands, you will relish our upcoming season of freewheeling even more. All that's on a brand new season of freewheeling that's coming soon on the NDTV network. I sometimes really wonder how we do it, packing so much into one show, but of course it does mean that we have now run out of time. So tell me how you liked what you saw on the program today. It's not just what you saw here at the Windsor Castle, but also, of course, that huge launch at the very top of the show. The new Range Rover, it is the 4th generation. React to that, folks, because it is, of course, a very significant model for JLR. Now, you know how to get in touch with me, you know all the ways in which to send in all your feedback. So I'll wait for that, and I can also tell you that I'm going to wait rather perhaps impatiently to be able to drive that new Range Rover as well. On that note, please wear your seatbelts, please don't use your cell phones when you're driving, and please wear your helmets if you're on a bike. Bye-bye.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.